Welcome to the Morale Booster Network, a platform for entrepreneurs, career professionals, leaders, and the general public to give back to the society through coaching and mentoring. I remain your host, Dr. John Ugulu. I am an author, speaker, and strategist. I always say experience is the best teacher. You can stream or download this podcast from YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Google Podcast, Player FM, and Pandora. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from Atlanta, Georgia. Good morning, good evening from whichever part of the world you are listening to me from. Today, I have with me a guest who I have been following as an online mentor for some time. And this man has a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. So today we are having with us Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Rabbi Daniel, known widely as America's rabbi, is a noted rabbinic scholar, best-selling author, and TV host. He's the president of the American Alliance of Jews and Christians. He's an author of America's Real War, Thou Shalt Prosper, and other bestsellers. He's also a frequent guest on Fox News, WallBuilders Radio, and Glenn Beck TV. He hosts his own popular radio and podcast program with audiences worldwide, pairing his inheritance as a descendant of a multi-generational rabbinical family with his background in science and business. He teaches ancient Jewish wisdom in unparalleled manner. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to join me as I welcome to this platform no other person but a man with the wisdom that we all need. No other person but Rabbi Daniel. Rabbi, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on this program.
Dr. John, it's something I've been looking forward since I became aware of you a little while ago and learned a little bit of your wonderful work. And I really thought that there could be value for me as well in having an opportunity to get to know you and to become friends. And I'm so grateful that this actually has come to pass. I appreciate you taking the initiative to make it happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, you being on this program is a blessing, not just to me, to my children. They're actually, behind the scenes listening, and to my audience out there. Because, we understand one thing about the Jews in general. They're successful when it comes to business, when it comes to moving together as a family, in all areas that people actually struggle with. And I know that with your wealth of knowledge, myself, my family, my audience would be able to grow from where we are to where we actually want to be, especially with words of wisdom from someone like you. So thank you once again, sir, for joining me on this program.
And really the only correction I want to make, with your permission, is you kindly alluded it to as my wisdom. And I only wish that were true, Dr. John, but I'll be honest and tell you that it's actually his wisdom. As you mentioned earlier, that I am the son of a rabbi and a descendant of a rabbinic line, and I made it my work to try and find the secret behind Jewish financial success.
Wow.
Why is it that people of Israel are disproportionately successful with money? And once I realized that it was not a simple explanation such as, Jews are smart, because smartness doesn't have anything to do with making money.
Right.
And I realized it wasn't what many people said, which Jews are dishonest and so they are not handicapped by morality. I don't believe that that's true for Jews more than for anybody else. And when I eventually discovered that the secret lay in a book that has been studied, loved, and revered by dozens and dozens of generations of Jews, father to son, teacher to student, one after the other. And I then saw how much of what you and I and all our friends and all our students and all our disciples need in order to succeed financially is found in ancient Jewish wisdom. And I will just say this, it's not a case of just pulling proverbs and slogans from the Bible, because you can find a verse here and there that'll say pretty much whatever you want it to say.
Right.
And you know, it's just like in English. If a soldier is going off to deployment and he's very sad to leave his girlfriend behind, you know, a friend might console him and say, you know, listen, buddy, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so you don't have to worry. And then a few minutes later, another guy comes up to him, puts his arm around his shoulder and smirks and says, but don't forget, out of sight, out of mind.
Out of mind.
And so, you know, you can find slogans to say whatever you want to say. But embedded in the Hebrew text of the scripture is vast quantities of ancient Jewish wisdom that pertains directly to 5 main areas of life, of which finance is one.
Right. So thank you so much for sharing that. You know, luckily for myself, my audience, those who are listening to us, today we will be talking about keys to building lasting wealth. And having been following you for a while, I noticed that you have been able to share some key principles that everyone who's willing to learn and listen, when used, can actually accomplish that goal of building lasting wealth. So here goes my question to you. I have a lot of, we're streaming on multiple platforms, you know, over 25 platforms at the moment as we speak. And I know, you know, from time to time, these platforms would help us broadcast and to get to so many places. So what are the keys? What are the keys to building lasting wealth based off of the knowledge, the experience you have acquired over time?
Dr. John, from time to time on various television shows, people have said to me, so what is the secret for a successful marriage? And I make myself look very serious and very dignified. And I say, so let me understand, you're asking me for the secret of successful marriage. And yes, you got it, exactly. And I pause for a few seconds and I say, well, here is the secret for a successful marriage. The secret is that there is no one secret.
Wow.
There are many secrets, and how to deploy them and how each strategy is used depends on the circumstances, it depends on the nature of the people, it depends on the current condition of the marriage. And I have to say exactly the same thing when it comes to making money.
Right.
There is no one answer that is suitable to everybody. Now, you absolutely correctly didn't ask for the secret or the answer. You asked for the principles.
Yes.
And so my wife and I produced a book called Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments for Making Money. Thou shalt prosper, the 10 Commandments for making money. And that book took a long time to write, mainly because I decided that I needed to condense what were dozens and dozens and dozens of tips and tools and techniques into a usable number. And I decided on 10, and I thought it would correspond to the 10 commandments, and that would be nice from a publishing perspective.
Right.
But and so that was the best I could do, was reduce the critical principles down to the number of 10.
Wow.
But I couldn't possibly say which of the 10 is the most important, because that depends on who I'm talking to.
Absolutely. Yes.
Everyone is in a different stage of life. Everyone has different talents. God has bestowed different abilities and challenges on each and every individual. And so when I do coaching, the reason I sit down one-on-one with a client is because I have to understand exactly where they're at.
Right.
But that having been said, I can certainly identify one of them, for instance, but in no particular order. I'm not taking the most important, but this is one that I think impacts most people. And that is that the principle is that nobody can excel at anything that deep in their heart they consider to be morally reprehensible.
Mm.
And so if somebody believes that making money is the equivalent of taking money, that making money brings you benefits but brings harm and disadvantage to everybody else, your handicap is immeasurable.
Right.
Your chances of financial success are close to zero.
Mm.
Because, unless you are a completely amoral person. But for any decent person, the idea that by making money, I'm going to be taking money away from other people is so destructive and so damaging and so dishonest and so untrue that it turns into a fatal obstacle for getting ahead.
It's not sustainable.
And so, I like pointing out that in May 1954, a human being ran a mile in under 4 minutes for the first time ever. And since that time, hundreds of athletes have done it. Hundreds.
Right.
Why didn't any people do it before Roger Bannister did it in 1954? It's very simple. They did not believe it was possible.
Right. Mindset.
It's mindset. And when people believe that making money reflects negative characteristics, that making money means you are at heart a greedy person, and when making money, you believe, means stepping on the fingers of widows and orphans in your climb to the top, believing those things impose an absolutely fatal handicap on any decent person.
Right.
And so that particular principle that I spend dozens and dozens of pages on in the book, Thou Shalt Prosper, I am explaining how it is. First of all, how did people get this bad idea? Why is it that in almost every movie or primetime television show, the person who's the biggest criminal is a business professional?
Yes.
Which is not how it is in real life. So I explained that, and then I teach, and I also I have an online program called the Financial Prosperity Collection, and I spend quite a lot of effort on helping people overcome this, because in your heart, you may well have a belief that in your head you've managed to expunge. But as long as it still resides in your heart, it's a problem. One of the ways I can tell people have been infected by this virus that making money is evil is when people they experience emotional difficulty in naming their price to a customer?
Right.
Well, that's because they believe not that they're doing a great kindness to the customer, but they're taking away his money.
Absolutely. You talked about having a mindset of making money and doing it the right way. So basically, if I got you correctly, you are encouraging, because I have a lot of young people who are just now wanting to get into entrepreneurship, into business. So basically, what I got from you is that they should focus on rendering services rather than thinking of how to just collect the money and, step on toes, wanting to pay the bills by all means, but instead
Yes.
be more valuable to people.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
You put your finger on it exactly right. I have a belief, and this doesn't impact anybody else. People can have their own beliefs. It doesn't matter. The important thing is the strategy.
Right.
But my belief is that the good Lord wants us to be connected with one another, and that he gave us two very delightful ways to connect with people, sexually and financially.
Yes.
And in that way, when God said at the beginning of Genesis, it's not good for man to be alone, that is for real. It really is not good. And one of the ways of not being alone is to start making money.
Money. Right.
And it's my advice, sometimes people say to me, I'm so depressed, I'm sitting around at home and I just can't get enough energy to get up and do anything. Just go get a job. Just do it. Just get a job. Well, what's a job going to do? It's going to make you money. What's that going to do? It's going to make you feel better. You'll stop feeling depressed.
Wow.
And it's impossible to get a job without interacting with other people. And you'll be very happy when you deposit your first paycheck. You will feel a joy surge through your soul. So yes, be a giver before you are a taker.
Absolutely.
Find ways to do things for other people. The money will come after that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much. Now, there's so many entrepreneurs, or rather aspiring to be entrepreneurs, people who want to transition from employment to entrepreneurship. And sometimes they tend to tell themselves that it is not possible, but deep down in them, they get frustrated with their jobs and they think that starting a business is the next step. And some of them think they need to quit their job right away before starting the business. Could you please share with us that young man, that young woman, that man or woman who's thinking of making that transition? What principles do you think that person needs to, imbibe or follow to help them make that transition from employment to entrepreneurship an easy one?
Yes, of course. Number one, you do not quit your job until you've already got the basis of a business going. There's no business that, in my view, you cannot at least start part-time. I agree that there comes a point at which you have to jump in and swim or get out of the water.
Right.
But initially, all the testing, all the market evaluation, all of that can be done while you are still employed. Right. And so unless you have a very substantial reserve of expendable capital, you should absolutely keep your job first.
Right.
Now, if on the other hand, you have all kinds of capital raised, or you've got large reserves of capital, and you have enough time at your predicted burn rate to get something up and running, that might be different. But for most people dreaming of an entrepreneurial life, it can't work that way. You have
Right.
to go, you have to do that first. So that's number one, I would say. Do not be in a hurry to give up your revenue stream before your business is at least started, number one. Number two, do not select a business on the basis of what you like doing.
Okay.
The fact that you like baking cupcakes doesn't tell me in the least that that's a good business for you to start.
Okay.
Because business is fundamentally learning how to be not selfish. It depends on overcoming the ego.
Yeah.
And so, to give you an example, if somebody wants a job in your business or in my business, and in the interview, they start telling us all about their ambitions and what they hope to have and how they'd one day like to start up a band.
Yeah.
And at some point, we're going to interrupt them and say, you know, in the university over in the next city, they have a microscope. And that microscope is so powerful that it can even look inside molecules.
Right.
Well, even that microscope is not powerful enough to detect how little interest I have in your goals and aspirations. I'm only interested to know how you can help me. Otherwise, I'm not hiring you.
Yeah.
And so what you were doing in your interview, you were exhibiting your selfishness. You were talking about all your desires. That's not how my business works. We focus on satisfying our customers' desires. And if you are interviewing for a job, then you need to demonstrate not selfishness, but the opposite. You need to demonstrate how you're caring about my desires.
Yes.
And so similarly, the fact that you like making cupcakes doesn't mean that the best business for you is opening a bakery. The fact that you might like fishing doesn't mean you could go into the fish business.
Right.
All of this, it's got to be researched completely unemotionally and dispassionately. You need to look around and see in terms of the customer base you have access to, either geographically or digitally, what do they need that you can supply? That's the only question.
Wow. Look for a need. Look for a need.
Look for a need. Do not tell me what you like doing. I couldn't care less.
Wow. 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 That's awesome. Thank you so much. You just hit the nail. You said, don't give up your job. I know someone is watching right now. And for those of you who are listening to us right now, those who are listening via podcast, those who are watching via YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, please like and share this broadcast, because you might just be saving the life of that one person who has been waiting for a lifetime to hear this message. He said, do not give up your job. He said, do not do business based off of what you think you like, but instead look for a need and fulfill, provide a service or product that would fulfill that need. Thank you so much. Now, a lot of people talk about, I hear people talk about creating generational wealth, creating generational wealth. Now, do people actually do what is necessary to actually let that wealth flow through the generation? So my question to you, sir, is how do you and other Jews keep the wealth in the family? I know there's a secret to that, because I know so many people who are doing business, and at the end of the day, their children, might not even be interested in that business, but I know that there is a strategy, there is a secret. Can you please, do you have an idea on how to keep it within the family?
Oh, very much so, yes. And it's a very important question you ask. Well, in order to have generational wealth, you first of all have to have generations.
Yes.
And one of the problems I experience nowadays is I find that many people do not understand what I call the cross-link between family and finance. And so many of the people that I speak with are looking to increase their finances, to enhance their revenue, and very often to create a business. But at the same time, they tell me that they are not interested in marriage. They're not interested in having children.
Mm.
And I say to them, look, a number of years back, I had the good fortune to have lunch with a very famous actor who was celebrating his 100th birthday. His name was George Burns. And during the time we were together, he smoked 2 cigars.
Mm.
And we were only together for an hour or two. And at the end of it, we were talking. I was getting ready to leave. And I said, Mr. Burns, have you decided that the secret to long life is to smoke cigars? And he had such contempt for my question, as he was right to do. He said, don't be an idiot. The fact that it's worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for other people.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows that smoking is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it hasn't been a problem, but that doesn't mean it's that way for everybody,
Right.
And so, as it turns out, he died just a few months later, but
Wow.
he certainly lived for a long
He got
time.
to 100, so yeah.
Yeah, he was over 100, so he did do okay. But the point is that just because there are some people, particularly young financial or tech success stories, who are not married, have no children, and have made a lot of money, that doesn't mean it's a good strategy for everybody to follow. I'd say don't be an idiot.
Right.
The fact is that, contrary to what you might expect, having a family is not an obstacle to making money. It's a huge help to making money.
Mm.
And one of the reasons for that is that having children in your life means that you are consciously and subconsciously in your soul attuned to the future.
Right.
Most people live in the present.
Mm.
Some people have a little bit of a sense of the past. But to be really successful, you've got to be tuned to the future.
Right.
Jeffrey Bezos, who created Amazon, gave a speech about 2 years ago to Amazon employees, at which he said something absolutely correct and very wise and very unexpected. He said, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the day will come when Amazon will go bankrupt and be out of business.
Mm.
He said, our job is to postpone that day for as long as we can.
Wow.
In other words, he's looking ahead, and he's saying, back in 1970, if anybody would have told you that Sears would be out of business, they would have laughed at you. It was impossible.
True.
There was a big Sears store in every town in America. Well, Sears has gone.
True.
And in order to be successful in business, you've got to be able to see the future.
Mm.
And children are the best way of training your heart and your mind and your soul to being attuned to the future.
Right.
And so when you understand that your children are not a cost item on your financial statement, but they're actually an asset, then that already begins to change the whole concept of generational wealth.
Right.
Because in the same way that you maintain any asset, you own a piece of real estate, you maintain it. You hire a maintenance company that looks after it, makes sure it's in good shape. You don't allow it to deteriorate into rack and ruin.
That's correct.
If you have a car, you look after your car. It's an asset.
Yes.
Well, when you understand that your children are not just a cost item, but they're actually an asset, it makes a huge difference.
Mm.
And you start investing in maintenance for your children.
Wow.
Which means that you don't just send them to a public school and hope for the best.
Mm.
You look and make sure what are the values that are being taught. You might decide you have to send your children to a private school. You might decide you have to homeschool your children. After all, they may be your biggest asset.
Right.
And only once you begin to understand how to maintain, how to nurture, how to develop, how to grow, and how to improve the asset of your children can you even begin to hope about generational wealth.
Wow. Wow. So basically, when we talk about generational wealth, because I think in this Instagram era, internet era, a lot of people, like you said, are focused more on the present. And you see a lot of people who don't want to start families talking about generational wealth. Now it has now become a word and they want it and they're not doing what is necessary. Right.
Exactly.
So basically you're saying we have to make sure that the children are aligned in whichever way possible with what that business or whatever generates that income is. So we have to make sure we get them involved in that. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm not saying nobody can make money without children.
Right, of course.
But George Burns also said, not everybody's going to live long if they smoke 2 cigars a day.
Yes. Yes. I agree with you on that. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a wonderful time with you. A pleasure and a privilege. And look, for those of you who are listening, please like and share this broadcast, because you might just be saving the life of that one person who has been waiting for a lifetime to hear this message. So here with me again is Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He is a man with wisdom. So please go and look for his book. If you are that person who wants those principles we talked about, go and look for his book, Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments of Making Money. So, sir, where can they find your books?
Well, one of the things that people I think could benefit from is also an online course at my website called the Financial Prosperity Collection.
Okay.
And that's 10 hours of instruction from me directly.
Okay.
And that's at rabbidaniellapin.com.
Okay. So your website is Rabbi
Daniel Lapin.com.
Lapin.com. All right. So for those of you who are watching via YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, his website is currently being displayed there for you. For those of you who are listening via podcast, it's also on the caption. It's rabbidaniellapin.com. So go there right now and check it out. See what he has there. And look, invest in knowledge. Invest in knowledge. Invest in yourself. It is not a bad thing to do. I spend so much money every year trying to develop myself. And that's why we bring people like himself to come here and share their wisdom with you. So thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure and a privilege having you here. I hope when next we invite you, you will be willing to come over and speak more wisdom to my audience.
You know that my answer is already yes. I would love to do that again. And I hope you and I have a chance to meet and extend our friendship, since we both want nothing but benefit and growth and goodness for our audience, for everybody listening. And I encourage people to take a look at the Financial Prosperity Collection on my website, because it could be life transforming, as Dr. John just said.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful day. And remember, keep doing what you do. You know I don't need to remind you, but we love you. We appreciate all you do, and lives are being transformed by your work. Have a wonderful day, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. You too. God bless. Till next time.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, we typically we typically broadcast live at 6 p.m., but today make that um, we had to make that sacrifice to bring him on board. He's a very busy man, and I was lucky to have him come here to spend time with us. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message via DM, or you can visit my website, johnugulu.com, and you know, send us a message there. So now he talked about some key principles, which sometimes a lot of people don't see the importance in those principles when it comes to transitioning from employment to entrepreneurship. It is always very important for us not to make hasty decisions. Always remember that you can have your job going on for you, your employment, while you start your business as a side hustle. Always remember that your employment is your first business partner. So don't just quit your job because it will end up frustrating you. You need money to pay your bills. You need money to invest in the business while you're growing the business. So, like what Rabbi said, always remember, if you are that person who wants to start a business, do not quit your job just like that. All right. So, I don't know where you're listening to me from. Please like and share this broadcast because there is definitely somebody out there who needs to hear this message. Like and share this broadcast. I don't know what you know about yourself or what the people around you know about you, but here is what I know for sure about you, that you are an abode of greatness. Think about it and remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. God bless you, everybody. Have a wonderful one.